What drives you out of that rock bottom?
मेरो well wishers हरुले नै हो
केपीसँग ओलीसँग कहिले भेट्नु भएको थियो
जनयुद्ध चलिरहेको थियो भूमिगत हुँदाखेरि
What should your legacy be?
अचानक त्यो घटना हुन दिनु बर्बाद छ नि
Things that happened to you?
This is life. I mean,
Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is episode number 500, and it wouldn't have been possible without you. You came in episode number 15, Nirvana, and thank you so much for coming back on this. This is an episode that's very close to me. Like every single episode, this one's slightly more closer. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. It's always a pleasure to be here. And it's not because of me, it's because of your relentless hard work, vision that you have of bringing out the stories, bringing out the best in people, sort of disseminating and providing that communication of positivity that's made this show to the 500. So congratulations for that.
Thank you so much. Means so much. Before we went on air, right? Malai ke tha and I'll speak a little bit of. We'll do a bilingual if that's cool with you. I've considered you my brother, always. When you walked up and you saw the frame, there are things that you've said that I framed it up and literally kept it in my office. What's family to you? Let's start off with that. What's family to you on today's date, at this day and age?
Family to me is. It comes from two aspects. Number one is something that we don't choose. That's the God is. We are born into a certain set of parents. We are born with certain sets of siblings. We are born into a particular environment with certain individuals who become part of your family.
Yeah.
But then there's also some relationships which are thicker than blood. They're relationships and people come into your lives that are there with you during mostly the tough times, mostly the most difficult times, but you really enjoy their company, you learn from it. To me, even people working in my company, that day and night I'm involved in, even my buale pani bhannunhuncha ki we are part of the CG family, and he doesn't take it very, very lightly. He really means it that we are one family with one common goal, with one vision, and we are all individually doing our part to achieve that goal, achieve that dream. In when you're talking about a family with your father, mother, siblings, you have certain other types of goals and aspirations. But then, the element of unconditional love comes into that aspect which you didn't decide to be born into.
How is the relationship with your brothers right now?
Oh, my brothers and I have always had a tremendously good relations, touch wood. I feel really proud that both my younger brothers look up to me with that respect, and they're doing so well individually. I'm so proud of them. That they're fulfilling and being part of that entire family's vision of taking not only our family values but our group's vision forward.
After having a set of wealth, I'll put it in a very subtle way. After having a set of wealth, we've seen across the world families falling apart, families not getting together. कतिजनाले अहिले सुनिरहनु भएको छ होला जसको परिवारमा कुरा मिलिरहेको छैन होला, केही न केही बिग्रिरहेछ होला, कतै न कतैबाट त्यो पुँजीले गर्दा होला अथवा त्यो परिवारको दुःख पीडाले गर्दा होला हैन, कुरा मिलेको छैन होला. आजको दिनमा how is it at your household? Honest.
See, the worldwide, there's a particular statistic that the first founder always creates. The second generation after that grows the company, leverages, grows it. The third one consolidates, and fourth one, 90%, 95% of those companies fail. I think we're in the stage, we are a fourth, now fifth generation company. what my father did something really, really well is he put together a family constitution.
He was the third generation, if I'm not mistaken.
He was the third generation. In Nepal. He put together a family constitution. You know, we had a very extensive exercise. There was external, competent people who had expertise in this particular area and family businesses who were brought in, engaging with different members of the family, understanding their expectations, their strengths, their weaknesses, and a family constitution was formed. In the family constitution, we have separate sets of councils. Family council, which is headed by my mother. Business council. MD's council, that's between my brothers, 3 of us. Then we have the ownership council, and all 4 councils have completely different objectives and platforms. We discuss different issues, but all of it is leading towards that unshakable, that common vision and that dream that we have. That is a non-negotiable. Now, putting in our individual family values in place, our business goals in place, those councils play a major role, you know, where we talk about it. Once individually, between my brothers and me, our responsibilities are divided. Our ownership structure can be different within the company, but our responsibilities are very, very important. So all of us are fulfilling each responsibilities, and we also know between us that we leverage on each other's strengths. We help out in each other's weaknesses because our goal is very common. You know, our vision is very well aligned as to where we want to be next year, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
I was looking back at the history. Obviously, you know, we've done a little bit of homework. 1900s when the family was here, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, 1900s.
Right.
Right? 30s obviously started off with the textile shop. 50s road, furnishing, spinning. Nepal spinning came in the 50s and the 60s. Arun Emporium came in 66. Right? So Arun Emporium is something that I've heard. Until I really didn't know as well. Last time when we spoke as well. 70s, biscuits came. 80s, electronics, financial services in the 80s itself. Nobel Bank, मेरो पनि खाता छ आजको दिनमा हैन हामी धेरैको खाता छ आज. Nobel came in 84. So did YY came around the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. And then obviously 90s was financial services, real estate in 90s as well. त्यो थाहा छैन मलाई. Real estate was in 90s. 2000s, education and hospitality. 2003, when you came back, I'll jump to that, was remittance, hydro, cement, obviously now global expansion, which I'll come to in a while. That all happened in 2000s. The 2010s पछि होला, if I'm not mistaken, and which I want to come back to, right? I just want to touch base on this, that when you look back, आफ्नो परिवारको इतिहास फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि हैन, you have a lot of work to do to keep that legacy going. Do you feel the pressure?
There's definitely a pressure. It's not an external pressure. It's an internal pressure.
Inside, like I'm not saying anybody is going to tell you, Nirvana, you have to do 10 times better than when your great-grandfather started this, or your great-great-grandfather started this. But within you, like that fire that I have to achieve, I have a purpose. I have to achieve X, Y, Z, like till my dying breath, and then leave a legacy that somebody else from 200 years from now, another Sanjay is going to ask your great-grandkids something similar. You know, do you have that?
Of course. When I say internal pressure, it's your consciousness. At the end of the day, when you're going to sleep, you ask yourself a question. Am I doing justice to a legacy which my forefathers or my father has created? Having worked in this company for almost 25 years and having been put in this particular leadership position, am I doing justice to it? What is my legacy, which in turn will lead to the family's legacy? There is no comparison that because I'm, my father's son, I have to beat him. It's not a competition. It's a very important pressure, which is your conscious basically telling you that I have to make something out of it. I have to do something out of it. I have been trained. I have the capability and the capacity to achieve that goal, and I'm not going to look back and leave no stone unturned till the time I achieve that goal. So that pressure is very important. Does that give me sleepless nights? Yes, in a good way. Does it drive me crazy? No. Because over a period of time, 25 years ago, if you ask me, when I was still in school, I always really enjoyed the aspect of creativity, whether it's art or music or even sports, non-business. But over a period of time, when I got into business, I also understood and realized how I can channelize that creativity into business. So I'm very passionate about that creativity field, and I'm applying it into business. And what really, really gives me a high or a drive into this is new business development. Turning around businesses, is growing our business verticals, seeing new sectors where our group can grow into and do it. These are all part of creative thinking process, which I think is the difference between a businessman and an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur needs to have that creative juice flowing in them, which really differentiates them into a normal businessman.
How is it? So your family is run like a business? Can you say that?
Our family is run like a business for sure, but our family's goal is always looked upon from the perspective of wealth creation.
Is that true?
Absolutely. We very rarely come across, like any business, you at the end of the day, you look at your balance sheet and you look at your P&L, right? And like, okay, this was our budget, this is what we did. But very rarely do we look at that aspect. We are looking into it. Our corporate finance team, our business unit heads, CEOs are always looking, and we're working towards that. But our family at large is always working on the element of wealth creation, which goes beyond your monetary returns that we get. Which is, how is our family creating an impact in our society? How is our family representing Nepal and taking it to the world? How is our family constantly coming up with world-class brands? How is our family constantly investing in sectors that is going to be the future of tomorrow? How is our family continuously giving that confidence not only within Nepal but outside of Nepal, that Nepal is the future and the present to be investing in? All of this is part of creating wealth in a longer term way. How are we creating a legacy which goes on to, with the right set of values that we are now, which is being put into place now, which goes on to the next 100 years? Like Tata's today, for example. You don't need to, there's not even a single Tata surname people on the board of Tata Sons.
He gave it away.
It's not gave it away. Ratan Tata and his grandfathers created the same process that we are doing now. They created an institution. We are all stakeholders of those institutions. Whether today or tomorrow I stay or not, we are developing a mechanism where that institution is going to keep growing.
I had a very long conversation about this with a few friends of mine yesterday. Short term गर्ने कि long term गर्ने? क्षणिक पैसा कमाउने कि लामो समयसम्म काम गर्ने र त्यो institutionally, that ABC name of that institution is going to run forever, for 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 500 years, whatever it is. Which one? But I'm not here to sit and judge which one's good and which one's bad. What is wealth? Can you describe wealth for me that you just mentioned?
Yes, wealth is having a very peaceful night of sleep where you know that the fundamentals of your business practices, your business goals, the way you are generating profit, the impact you're making, not only in short term through your corporate social responsibility, but the impact you're creating through your products and services to your company for a greater good. To me, that is wealth. Wealth relating to your own peace of mind and your own conscious saying, yeah, मैले जे गरिरहेको छु ठिकै गरिरहेको छु. I'm not harming anyone. I'm sticking to my values, sticking to my goals, going forward with it. That peace of sleep at night, when you can sleep with a You cannot lie to your own conscience, right? That yes, I'm doing well. I'm in the right direction. That is the real wealth. Having your family members stick by you during the tough times, good times, your close friends, that is wealth. Constantly you yourself realizing that you need to be on this path of learning, relearning, growing, that is real wealth to me.
People constantly attacking you and your family, how does that feel?
I guess after a period of time it's natural.
सुरुमा त अलिकति हैन, when you came back in 2000s हैन from Singapore, before you went to Kusum हैन, केयु जानु अगाडि त्यतिखेर पनि त हुन्थ्यो नि हैन, तर over time you have a thick skin and you learned from your dad as well?
Actually, Sanjay, I don't remember up until say 5 years ago, or let's say 10 years ago, that in Nepal ma cha ni, there was never this level of trolling or backlashing or media bashing. It never existed. Nowhere else. Not to us. Not only last 20 years, from the time my grandfather started. Again, our company is built on very, very strong values. For the last 20 years, my father, as far as I can remember, we're so confident as a family that we can even, being a 100% privately owned company, we can even publish our balance sheets. That's how transparent we are. In the process, we've lost a lot of businesses. But that's fine. That's a decision we've taken as a family. Do we want to be known as, to answer your question, short-term, who's made millions of rupees by, shortcut and some illegal decision-making process? No. Do you want to start a smaller company, having a larger dream, work hard towards it? Yes. And that's what we've done. I mean, no matter what I say, you took our, history of our companies from the 90s. I mean, almost 150 years is not a joke. Sticking to that common values, sticking to those goals, sticking to how we operate the businesses still continue to remain. Only the stakeholders have changed. So if you see the last 10 years, what has happened is, with the shift of the mainstream media of TV, radio, print, the world has evolved to other form of media again. Right? Social media, online news, etc. Now, that evolution is becoming, it's so fast, that evolution, that today people, especially in our part of the world, feel if I have a Facebook account, that means I'm a journalist. That means I have the right to check and balance whoever is prominent in the country. I have the right to express my views, whether what repercussions or implications there. I have the right to have a comment on everything. Right? Now, majority of the time, that also leads to a lot of positive change in a particular society. That's when, there's something I've said this before, that if you look at a particular society, there are 12 जना मान्छे भयो भन्छ नि, कुनै पनि सोसाइटीमा 4 जना चाहिँ पक्का हुन्छ है, 4 जना चाहिँ कच्चा हुन्छ अनि 4 जना चाहिँ लुच्चा हुन्छ है. In any society, these are the rules of the society. Now, if पक्काको ग्रुपले कच्चालाई आफ्नो साइडमा ल्यायो भने, we're talking about progress, development, positivity, change. लुच्चाले कच्चालाई आफ्नो साइडमा ल्यायो भने चाहिँ you're talking about instability, you're talking about mess everywhere, politics or economic crisis, etc., frustrations. I think our country has been going through that. So we need more and more positive people, bringing the people in between. When I talk about people in between are the youth. The youth, they need to be molded into positivity, what the future of our country is, the hope in our country, the opportunities in our country. The people with proven track record need to bring them up and show them the path. So that's what makes and breaks a country. That's what makes or breaks a community, a society.
Why do you think the family got attacked constantly over the past period of 10 years? Or 5 years, let's say?
I think it's because probably we were growing too fast. We still do have...
There's nothing bad in that. Is it?
Yeah, I wish there were more people like you. But, again, Sanjay, we were growing too fast. we all had that fire in our belly. My father had this goal dream. Me and my brothers were aligned to it. We'd also started by now, in our late 30s, last 10 years, started getting into mainstream business, bringing in our management style, bringing in our vision, our goals, and all of us had that fire to drive it. So collectively, when four of us are doing the role for one, obviously you're going to grow exponentially. But we've also had a lot of challenges on the way. It's not like we've had successes everywhere, but we learn from our failures and we adapt it to our successes and we grow. So in the process, what happens is, I think majority of the people are very proud of that. Majority of the people, when you talk about Binod Chaudhary or you talk about Chaudhary Group, you see a sense of pride. No matter where we set up our institutions outside,
anywhere,
maybe a hotel in Dubai or a XYZ plant anywhere. The Dubai hotel mein jane wala Friday is a holiday there, right? I see so many Nepali dajuhairu, they come there, and in that tall hotel ko gadi Nepal ko jhanda lagira huncha, and they come and take a selfie. This is owned by someone from Nepal. That sense of pride exists. Same thing with the people in Nepal. A lot of Nepalese in Nepal as well, right? But there is also that, I would say, a very small percentage of people who are constantly confusing, constantly politicizing, constantly building the wrong narrative for someone who's trying to do well. Why this happens is the art of deflecting when the person themselves are into scrutiny, and by diverting the attention into someone prominent, individual or institution. That's what happens. Let me give you some example. I mean, with you, I've always been very frank.
Transparent, yeah.
So hear me out in a couple of examples. So, let's talk about the elephant in the room. People talk about this Basbari case and all of that. Do you know, 40 years ago, I was surprised that Nepal, there was already a public-private partnership policy.
So PPP was happening 40 years ago?
40 years ago.
Okay.
And there are another 24 public-private partnership that has happened. Please do a separate study and the state of those public-private partnership as to where it is.
Majority banda sir.
So anyway, 40 years ago that happened. And through a proper process, involvement of the respective finance ministry, industry ministry, publications, tender notices, etc. You ask for interested parties to bid. No one came in for the bid. Second time we were interested, we came in, and my family members decided to take on this project. And things passed over 40 years' time. Now, fast forward to 40 years ago, individual political stakeholder in power have their own scrutiny going on. Scrutiny which can cost them their seat. What do? The art of deflecting the entire attention which is on them into something that is more prominent, deflecting into something more, deflecting the attention into something more prominent, individual or institution. Pull out the list. What all spending? That's spending. Who's that? CG. Because my issue is so big, the only thing that will divert my issue from public scrutiny is this particular issue. But sir, that there's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't matter. Put it. Let the media hype it up a little bit. Let the people attention and scrutiny divert. That's what happened. When individual honest stakeholders from the government have been put gun on their head and saying do this, do that, that's misusing of power. Yes, for us being in Nepal, because of this incident, are we going to leave Nepal? For sure, no. But what implication that has on current investors, what implication that has on potential investors, te bela investment summit chal raha tha, how many investments did we get?
Do you think that was a success?
It was zero. A lot of intents. Coming back 4 years before that, right, we're the largest investor in Nepal, period. We were not invited to the investment summit.
Nobody from the family?
No one. 24 hours before the investment summit, we got a call. Sorry, there is no international party coming. It's a matter of country's reputation. Please come in. We came in. Out of the 6 MOUs that were signed that day, 5 was from CG. EPC, Solar, Telco. Investment summit finishes. Next day I go to the respective ministries. So we've signed this in the presence of our Prime Minister and all the cabinet who are sitting there. How do we take this forward? That was for the investment summit. It's not applicable.
So where are the files now?
Lost someone's drawer, but we are still fighting for it because we've not given up hope. We still believe in those projects. Now, coming to your entire
previous one, I just want to touch base on the previous one. त्यतिखेर धेरैजनालाई लागेको थियो कि चौधरी ग्रुपलाई गाह्रो पर्छ र चौधरी ग्रुप चाहिँ देश छोडेर जान्छ भनेर बालोटार इज जस्ट एन एक्जाम्पल
एब्सोल्युटली नट हामीहरू सबैजना नेपाली हो कि वाइ वुड वी लिभ आवर ओन कन्ट्री एन्ड गो वी हेभ टु मच एट स्टेक
वाइ डिड पिपल से द्याट समथिङ लाइक द्याट देन त्यो थट प्रोसेस किन आयो होला के
आई एम हियरिङ इट फर द फर्स्ट टाइम अगेन हाम्रो त्यो स्याल करायो भन्छ नि द्याट स्टोरी that rumor based is there was also an aspect where someone just remember we used to have these curfews in Nepal.
Yeah, of course.
That's how the Nepal Bandh routine of Nepal Bandh website came in, right? Sometimes when even in a small gathering someone say bholi bandh bhai bholi bandai hunthe ke because the rumor is to go forward.
Wildfire just. Yeah.
So coming back to this case of let's say Basbari, right? When someone individually is under scrutiny themselves, their power or position is going to go for a toss. What do? They use media in their favor, misuse their power to try and deflect their own scrutiny and divert the attention. Look at the case of YY. We were talking about it before this, right? YY is
40 years of YY in this country.
40 years of YY in this country. Have you individually, Sanjay, you've always been have you ever had any problems having YY?
Never.
We produce and send YY to 40 different countries. Countries like Japan, countries like America, countries like Australia. You think they don't have quality controls and checks? Our benchmarking is not Nepal ko quality standards. Our benchmarking is world benchmarking for quality controls and assurances. There is a particular manufacturing. There's a particular process called Six Sigma once again, right? Six Sigma is for every million products you produce, you have 3.6 million packets that have some variances in products. In Nepal alone, we produce 1 billion packets. Over the last 40 years, our quality control team is so robust and so strong that as soon as we see a little variance, before even the customer gets into their hands, at our wholesale level or retail level, we pick it up.
So what really happened at that time?
What happened is a combination of 2 or 3 things. Over the last couple of years, we've also been seeing some retailers, maybe because of the economic problems they're going through, saying, hey, I've got a particular product that is a little bit over brown, maybe overcooked. If I don't get X amount of money, I'm going to give it out in the media. A little bit of blackmailing, right? But under the table, fine, manageable too. In this particular instance, okay, we literally, I sent my entire team to the shopkeeper and said, what was the problem in this? We have taken every packet out. That particular small batch is already destroyed. Why are you creating a ruckus? No, I'm going to call the media unless, what I demand you guys fulfill. And that's the time we said, we guys said, let's draw the line, forget it. Nothing happened. Again, in a matter of 1 or 2 weeks, maybe someone is under scrutiny. They want to deflect that scrutiny and that attention from them towards a more prominent individual institution. Who's in the line? CG. Which product? YY. What do? Give it to a third party, not the existing government lab, give it to a third party whose accreditation is already expired to do this testing, who doesn't even have the equipments to do this testing. They give a report, one-sided, announce it. As a company that has been here, that is going to grow here, it is not difficult. It is very, very difficult in our part of the world to go head-on against the state. What do? You just put your perspective in place instead of bashing the government entities. What happens after that? There's a spokesperson who talks on kind of nonsense about product like YY. What is his background? He's a veterinary specialist. Now, a veterinary specialist is talking about YY's health issues. I mean, it's absurd, okay? But are we talking about it? No, this is the first time I'm mentioning it. Am I angry? Of course I'm angry. What do? I rebuild in my confidence of YY. Who is it instigated by? Instigated by people who, are selling illegal gutkas and all of them, have so much of black money, they don't know where to put it. So for them to be able to put these money and try to bring brands like YY into controversy is natural. Companies that are doing VAT, Suri, one after another, for them when their products and companies coming under pressure is natural.
I remember about the brewery.
This is again linked. There's an incident that happened about 2-3 years ago in brewery also. A lot of companies doing a lot of theft in VAT and manipulation, etc., which was under scrutiny. What happens? Oh, CG is number one. Please go after them. What happens? In that particular way, we were selling about 30 lakh cases. Each case is about 12 bottles, right? So just 30 lakh cases of beer. While one of the shipment was coming from one area to the other in a truck, एउटा कार्टनको चाहिँ स्टिकर अलिकति निस्किरहेको थियो. एउटा कार्टनको एउटा स्टिकर फ्रम 30 लाख कार्टन हैन. VAT चोरी गरिरहेको छ सिजीले. Diverting the entire attention and scrutiny towards a prominent institution or an individual. Other companies doing VAT theft, diverted to CG. They are big. Attention, media attention, public expectations from CG vis-a-vis media's communication to the public. That is going to change the narrative. That is going to change the entire attention of everyone. They're going to bring out the attention from us and give it to more prominent people. CG will be put in the limelight. What people are not understanding is that CG over the last decades, last year itself, we contributed 2.2% of the total tax collected in the country. That's almost 20 arba contribution to the country's economy, only through our tax. Even a company like Reliance, contribution into the Indian tax system was 20,000 crore.
It's in points.
0.01%. We are 2%. No country, I can challenge you, Sanjay, no company in the world, in any country would contribute as much tax as we would. Then, what is the people I hear, in different forums, and this is the first time I'm addressing all these issues, CG le VAT ko chori. Ki chori garyo? Kahan chori garyo? Prove it to me, show it to me. I know, to 1 crore, 50 lakh, 20 lakh ko chori garyo. Hamiru, we are giving the country, just last year, 20 arba, hamle to 1 crore, 20 lakh, 40 lakh ko chori garnu parcha. Today, we are working with Tatas, Adani's, Reliance, Gates Foundation, LG, Godrej, you name it, some of the world's largest companies. You think they don't have their code of conduct or compliance or governance? You think they're going to work with a company who even does that? You think Forbes is going to list us in their annual list without doing their background and check? So if the whole world and everyone is appreciating it so much, what is happening in Nepal? Today, when we go to even a country like Sri Lanka, we get a red carpet welcome.
I saw the pictures.
Okay. I mean, red carpet means we are well respected over there. Okay? When they give example of Tata, they also give example of CG of Nepal.
CG of Nepal?
Yes. Because the flag is raising high over there in Sri Lanka, everywhere that we are. Now that also leads to another question.
So Kazakhstan, Kenya, Moldova, wherever you are in the world.
That leads to another question. Oh, CG's investments are all outside. Says who? My two brothers are non-resident Nepalese. Today, our country is functioning because of the money remittance coming in from the non-resident Nepalese or people who are working outside. 30% of our GDP is contributed by them. Our country is sustaining because of the hard-working Nepalese outside. We should be so proud of them. Both my brothers are NRNs. They see opportunity to grow outside. But even if you take the last 10 years, last 20 years, when Nepal was going through the worst, from insurgency to economic crisis to political instability, over 90% of our family's investment has been in Nepal and will continue to be in Nepal. Over 90%. During the last 5 years alone, we've set up a $400 million cement plant. Every month, every quarter, you're witness to it, Sanjay. You see something new coming out of CG. While on one hand, you have a lot of people also saying economics are not right, the indicators are not right, there's no opportunity. We are doing it. Are we foolish to do it? No. Do we have a longer term mindset? Yes. Do we believe in the country? For sure. Do we have an obligation, responsibility? For sure. I could be doing the same thing in any country I choose. Why am I sitting here?
Would you be making more money and more wealth anywhere else in the world?
Of course. More money, I don't know. More wealth, yes. And what is more wealth? We'll be more respected outside. The process of achieving that would be faster. We'll get more appreciated outside. There'll be no media bashing. There'll be people of positivity and people who feel proud of a Nepali company going outside. That's wealth. That's what we'd be doing. Am I worried about a small fraction of people who are trying to continuously do media bashing for Nepal? I'm not worried. Personally. Am I worried for the country? Yes. Who's the country? It's the youth. You know how many online portals or news agencies are?
Thousands.
What is the way for them to generate revenue? The same thing. Deflect the attention and scrutiny to a more prominent individual or institution. What is our biggest learning from all of this?
In the past 10 years?
Maybe we should have gone into media.
Welcome. Can I ask you a question? Give or take, I've read this. I don't know how true this is. I know. By 2025, the idea of the group is to reach a point of $5 billion. I've read it. I don't know how true this is. I know.
Very true.
Okay, sure. 5. I'm just keeping it to 5. कति प्रतिशत चाहिँ हैन त्यो पुँजी नेपालमा हुन्छ होला? Give or take.
Over 90%. And maybe we've already crossed that.
What, $5 billion mark?
Maybe. I don't know.
You guys are you're $5 million company.
No, I mean Forbes itself puts us up to about 2 billion, right? But then when Forbes calculates a person's net wealth or net value, one of the first thing they minus off almost 50% is the country risk, the environment risk. There's a lot of things that goes in.
So if you had the same amount of wealth in, let's say, one of our neighbors, let's say southern neighbor, or let's even say the place of the dragons, I know, in China, you'd be what, $4 million, $4 billion.
I don't know.
Give or take.
I have no idea because the dynamics of those countries and everything changes. But again, that's not the point what I'm trying to get at. The point I'm trying to get at, I mean, creating wealth, generating profit is like a crime in our country.
So
you agree?
So you're gonna put 90% of the wealth within Nepal?
Not you are going to. We have been and will continue to do it. Let someone come to me and I will show them in detail and do it. Come with facts, proper record. Let's talk about it. But don't create rumors. Don't create negativity. Don't create false misnomer amongst people. I'm not worried about our businesses suffering that way. I'm more worried about the state of mind of our youth. The future of our country. 50% of our population below the age of 20 who are leaving the country every day. I'm worried about that. People who are sitting in the country without any employment and just constantly blaming lack of opportunity due to political instability, due to lack of policies, due to XYZ reason. That's what I'm worried about. Last time we talked about Telecom, correct? There's Ncell. By that time, it was still owned by Axiata. Axiata frustrated and they left with a minus major losses or potential opportunity. Okay? There were other 3 companies, Smart. Where are they today? They owe the government arbo rupiah. Hello Satellite. They owe the government arbo rupiah. Where are they? UTL. They owe the government tons of rupees for the last 10 years. Where are they? Ncell owes the government millions of dollars, $300-400 million. Where are they? Who's suffering? Our people have suffered. The youth have suffered. Who they could have got more access to data at a cheaper price, where they could have come up with opportunities or ideas if everyone had access to cheaper data, if everyone had access to affordable data.
How long is it going to take you? Let's say, hypothetically, if you get all the documents sorted, how long is it going to take you to set up everything?
Sanjay, documents were set 10 years ago. Okay, our team and our vision and our goal was set 10 years ago.
You know what I'm getting
We're the only company in Nepal, the telco company, which has 0 dues left. But we are constantly being politicized. Again, the entire issue is deflected because 4 companies are going into scrutiny and you want to divert the attention into some individual institution.
So, बाहिरबाट पैसा चाहिँदैन नि त हैन चौधरी ग्रुपले आफै नै इन्भेस्ट गर्न सक्छ नि टेलिकम
Absolutely, but we want to bring in a strategic partner who has that global scale, know-how, all of that. It's going to benefit our country. Investment is going to come into the country.
So in Moldova, you've already created a telecom which has already taught you how to go ahead and do it. Am I correct on this?
We have a phenomenal team, and the beauty about Moldova, our CEO and our CFO were the 2 individuals which started Ncell in Nepal. So they even understand Nepal's landscape. So we have the expertise to a certain extent. But tomorrow, even if we are bringing in a strategic partner, CG is not a dalali garne company. We are not an agency company. We are not a company that tries to bring in structured deal, broker deals. We are not a broker. Please understand the difference between us and a lot of other companies that's benefiting today. We are an institution who has built on its own track record, that has proven track record, that has grown, and no one can challenge that. We are a company that's long-term, who has been here, who is here, and who will continue to remain here and grow till the time all of us are here.
So one by one then, how long is it going to take Telecom to come?
I think you're in a better position than me to answer that.
Who needs to sign the paperwork?
I think, unfortunately, it's there's a lot of injustice that's been done. We hope that the judicial system prevails, sees all the papers logically, what it is, and gives us this opportunity. Luckily, we have been successful in building CGNet. CGNet ko hamro je infrastructure hamle invest garechhau, that's not your typical ISP ko infrastructure. That's a telecom ready infrastructure. That means tomorrow if you want to run a telecom company, if normally it would take 1.5-2 years, for us it is going to take less than a year.
So who is stopping the growth of the country by having Telecom being an example? Who is stopping the growth of the country?
I guess the stakeholders in the regulators, the stakeholders, the ministries need to look into it much more positively. Again, I know there's a new government come into place. I hope they look into it much more positively. We're constantly in a state of hope. That's why I'm sitting here for the last 20 years, because of hope. Sometime or the other things will go right. Sometimes or the other policies and stability will come. Sometimes or the other people will realize that our country is definitely one of the best countries in the world to work in.
How close are you to getting Telecom in Nepal? 2024, this is
so
August.
In other countries, you get your...
Sorry, I'm pushing you for this. I really want to understand this.
No, so in other countries or other environment, you have your team in place, your network in place, your planning in place, your investments in place, all of that in place, right? And and then you apply for the license policies, which is it's an easy process, and you start. In our case, it's the opposite. We are waiting for when that will happen. In parallel, I think we'll be able to really speed track this. We've still not given up hope, because telecommunication is no longer a luxury. Okay? It's a necessity for a country's growth. You look at India, right? When Jio came in, there wasn't even a single unicorn. Unicorn is a company that's $1 billion in valuation. Last year alone, there were 42 unicorns in India. All companies relying on data penetration and cost of data, which is leading to 1 billion plus people. That's their market. Why is the whole world wanting to enter India? Because of the sheer population and data readiness into India. We're just talking about a bigger example in a smaller context.
So how close are we then? Pretty close now?
I have no idea. It'll really depend on the willingness of the decision makers to allow it. We don't want any subsidies. We don't want anything. They just probably the competition, they have to just be able to do a check on the competition, recover the money from them, do that part. We don't care about it. That's their part. They should fulfill that. But at the same time, we're not asking for anything. We're just asking for no interference and giving us that mauka matra we're asking for. Okay? I'm not a mauka dinu garnalai.
Telecom le kaya palat gardincha CG lai. It's going to take you to a different level.
I don't know, Sanjay, because
in monetary terms, because one of the richest person in the world is the Mexican telecom giant, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
He was the richest 10 years ago. He's no longer the richest.
Just to understand the amount of value that a telecom brings in.
So the kind of, in terms of a business, the kind of ARPUs, the average revenue per user, kind of, like Ncell in Nepal was one of the world's highest gross margin, 68%. Unheard of. Why? Because virtual monopoly. Telecoms all around the world also were looking at that kind of a margin 10 years from now. Because of competition, because of cost of technology, because of cost of infrastructure, those margins have been shrunk to gross margin have been shrunk to 30%, which means your net profit margin be shrunk to 10%.
Which is still high though.
10% margin is not even your interest rate in the bank. So I would say it's okay, but would a lot of companies today invest in a telco company? 9 out of 10 no.
It's
is CG still going to do it? Yes. Why?
Because the country needs it.
Because the country needs it.
I still remember you telling me if you want to be from a billionaire, you want to be a millionaire, you open an airlines.
The fastest way of becoming a millionaire from millionaires is opening airlines. But again, talking about airlines, it's really sad to hear about these incidents happening. The implication that those incidents happen to our country's tourism, etc.
Hey, Nirvana, let me ask you a question. If I no background in aviation, CG I don't think has a background in aviation, if I'm not mistaken. But CG definitely has friends in our different parts of the world where aviation is a big part of their portfolio. I'll give an example of Adani. I can give an example of Air India. I could name so many other companies that I do know personally, the founders and the owners of. We have 2 airports and one about to be built in the near future, within our lifetime most probably, which I think is going to happen. Good or bad, त्यसको त्यो पछि कुरा गरौँला त्यसको हैन. Do you think we have the potential, or do you think CG has the potential, if given an opportunity down the road, to liaison, I'm going to use that word, and have these 2 airports and the future airport and the airline and airlines भने मैले हैन, run successfully in this country and turn it around?
Why liaison? We want to invest as well. I told you
we're
not a broker company.
I know.
We have been here. We are an institution. We want to strategically partner. I'll give you an example, Sanjay. Almost 8 years ago, I was leading this on behalf of our group. Very, very prominent airport company in the world. Very successful.
I think we know.
Okay. We came to Nepal. I got them to Nepal. We did a massive study. Okay? त्यो बेला चाहिँ हाम्रो TIA-मा we required almost $64 million for expansion of runway, terminals, etc. So I went to them and I said, listen, they know the airport business. I am the local partner. We both want to do a PPP model for our TIA, whereby the government does not need to spend a single penny. We'll make the investments. Okay, we will upgrade the entire airport. We will make sure not even one person is let go. We will make sure that whatever the government is earning every year, we'll make sure we top it up by 10% every year. And we'll build the 2 new airports at zero cost for the government. If it was any other country, okay, 8 years ago, we would already be running 4-5 airports. Why weren't we allowed to do it? Because of political instability and no one wanting to take a decision at that time. Even recently, you must have read the news that, Adani wants to come and build airports.
How true is that?
I think there is definitely an interest, but a huge question mark into instability. Like when we discussed this exploring airport with our strategic partners, from the time we've started discussing this again after the 7-8 years ago, the government's already changed thrice. So they just look at us and they're like, what's going on? Will the same mindset continue? Will the same policies continue? And we're like, we don't know, let's just wait and watch. Today also, we work with companies that have excellent proven track record. Look at India. Every airport of there is privatized. It's a PPP model. And look how, I think they have like almost touching 100 plus airports. They've come up with this particular the Suvidha ones. I think Udan or something like that. The Gorakhpur Bada, I was actually travel Garna Belama, I saw it, is they want to replace the Bosco travel with comfortable airline travel. Okay? So what do they do is airlines like Indigo, SpiceJet, Air India, government says, you know what, we will give you we'll give you subsidy on the more profitable routes, right? But you guys have to run these other routes which are not profitable for you, but that subsidy will counter it. So now you have Gorakhpur to Delhi at 5,000 rupees. Can you imagine how the economy and connectivity has opened up the entire country? Do you know how many airports are there in Nepal? If I'm not mistaken, 35. How many are functioning? Probably 12. The 35 airport the only way we thrive, we talk about tourism being the backbone, the only way we can thrive on this is having the right airport infrastructure and safe airlines functioning in. But it is possible. Am I exploring it? I don't know.
I'm going to take a lot of your time today, and I'm sorry for that. I want to say this right in the beginning. I want to get in detail of each and every one of them. And Nirvana, today's episode is going to be looked down in history books. Mark my words. So I hope you give me time. I want to break this down. First and foremost, I know a lot of friends say it took me 20 years to create a little bit of domestic network that I have today's date. I tell each and every one of them, I need a network, I call Nirvana. I have that access, at least that I can text you and ask you, hey, what do you think of this? You've given me that much in my life. Thank you for that, first of all. When you need advice, not within your family, when you need specific advice on today's date, you can call practically anybody in the planet. Almost. Even if you want to talk to Elon Musk, you can call 3 people and they'll get you connected. Am I correct on this or not?
Maybe
give or take. Give or take. Let's say 5 people, right?
Yeah.
You have that access. How important is that network?
It's extremely, extremely important. Again, having the network itself is not it's not the only component. Having my father always says, your network is your net worth, right? As an entrepreneur, knowing a person and then seeing in a win-win situation what those 2 people can do for achieving a particular plan or an idea, that's where the beauty lies. So yes, I might know 10 different people. Now, knowing them can be for 2 reasons. One is I'm friends with them, I can take advice from them, or if it is for a business purpose, how best are we able to create a win-win situation and whether that particular goal justifies their time and resources or not. Once you're able to put this together, I think anything is possible. You have to always go in with that mindset of not extracting something, but creating value for both of you.
Together. Okay, so in the same context, I know one person that we both look up to, even though he's not alive today. Singapore बनाउँदाखेरि, one of the things that he said was, जुनसुकै देशको होस्, British had just left, and obviously there was a big change in Singapore. You studied there. It said that I'm going to find intellectual people. नेपालीमा भन्दाखेरि बौद्धिक व्यक्तिहरू म संसारको जहाँबाट पनि ल्याउँछु. I'll bring intellectual people from wherever in the world, and I'll build my nation. There was a lot of uproar. A lot of people said that, why don't we use people from within our sphere? But he was adamant, and he said that no, we're going to find it intellectuals, even if they're people who are just part of who made us a colony. We'll bring them too. We'll bring everybody, smart people, because our country needs intellectual people who've had experience. What do you think of that?
Oh, I think that Singapore is a living example of, because of Lee Kuan Yew's vision and his management style, is where Singapore it is today. I mean, Lee Kuan Yew at that time had visited Sri Lanka. It was Ceylon back then. He saw Ceylon, a small island, infrastructure, tourism, etc. He's like, I want to make Singapore like Ceylon. That time. But then he slowly started bringing the right person to do the right job, did not compromise on Singapore's goal. He was running Singapore as a CEO. That's one thing he probably learned, or very similar style of management like Mahathir Mohamad. You know, Mahathir Mohamad, the former Prime Minister of Malaysia, always had CEO in his badge. That's how Lee Kuan Yew also ran. To such an extent where there was a time when, there was a union in the airline or airport in Singapore who wanted to shut down some of the airline or restructure it. He came to the union and he said, this is what I'm going to decide to do, because this is what's best for the country, this is what's best for the airline or the airport. Okay? And you'll see it. And if tomorrow, even when I die, if someone tries to change that or tries to misuse that, I'll come out of my grave and I'll fix that person. That's the level of fire and dedication he had towards Singapore. Okay? You look at a much more subtle example. India ma 1992 ma things opened up, right?
Atal Bihari.
Malai politics handle garna dinu, economy fix garnalai, he got in Manmohan Singh and Chidambaram, World Bank, IMF. Manmohan Singh later on became the PM. त्यही बेला हुने privatization, नत्र अहिले पनि हामीहरू ambassador र contessa चढिरा हुन्थ्यो. You require a person with strong management credibility, track record, strong people management, strong networking, strong finance management, strong resource allocation and bringing out the best of the country's resources. You need that kind of a person to build the economy, which in turn will fix our country. Let's keep the politics aside.
Do you think a good CEO would be able to go ahead and run a country?
Probably to some extent, because a good CEO is at the end of the day part of a management. You need a good founder CEO who also has that vision. You need a founder CEO because his skin is in the game. You need a founder CEO because he knows what's at stake to lose.
Okay. What do you think of the political situation of the country today?
Unfortunately, a lot of instability. Fortunately, also, first time I'm seeing two large parties come together. So, hoping for a much more stable government.
Business, my cost. Obviously, your father is in one of the parties, so obviously, I know you're going to give me an honest answer. You always have, right? Even though we're on record right now, even if we were not on record, you would have given me an honest answer. That's how I feel. What do you think of the new parties that had started?
I think started off with a good energy, good zeal. Did not have clarity as to where they want to go. Capitalized not on their strengths, but merely on the opposition's weaknesses. I know the opposing parties have XYZ weaknesses, they are XYZ problems, issues. So yes, there's an opportunity. Very Aam Aadmi Party ko model that went in. Thought process was that. Was there a clear manifesto? Was there a clear direction? Was there a clear thing? No. There was no experience. But even in what went on even further worse on that new parties emerging is individual party members themselves had a lot of skeleton in their cupboard.
Closet.
In their closet, right? They have no experience. They're coming in with, they probably came in with the right intent, but then swayed into the entire game of popularity. I want to become popular. Instead of being a check and balance, they immediately took the bait of getting into power and being used to gain cheap popularity.
Populism politics works?
To some extent, but backed by past or future strong credibility and effective implementation of what you say.
You've seen brands being built. You've built brands by yourself. What does it take to build a brand, Nirvana?
What it takes to build a brand is, first thing is your experience and your credibility. And it does not happen overnight. Today you've got tools, social media, which brands can be exposed overnight. But can they be household names overnight? No, that takes time. Because you have to consistently provide quality product, quality service, consistently be able to, reinvent yourself, innovate and grow your company's products as the world progresses, along with your brand identity and DNA.
Okay, sure. So I'm going to put this into the political sphere. Nepali Congress, brand? I'm not trying to say that Nepali Congress has not made its fair share of mistake. I'm going to come to all of them. Fair share of mistake.
So Sanjay,
I know you don't want to get into it. I'll touch base on it and I'll just touch base on it. Nepali Congress, UML, obviously the new party, the old party. I'm going to touch base on these two, and then obviously everybody will understand the context that I'm getting into, right? What is, as a political, I was not getting into individual parties, but overall, as the political sphere, when it's looked at from afar, within the nation and outside the nation especially, what do people say about the brand of politics that we have?
Sanjay, I think there are people who have come into your show who have far greater knowledge in this field, far greater exposure, and will be able to put the right perspective, right? As a layman, as a citizen of a country, topic which I think we can move on to much better topics which we'll be able to share, and I'll be able to contribute through my experience and views. Much better topics.
Okay, well, I'll leave it then. I just want to understand what people think of the politics when they're about to go out and invest money in this country. Because why am I asking this? Because not just when it comes to instability, right? I'm just talking about what people think of when you go out and talk to them. Let's say you meet a lot of people in Davos. Example is Davos, right? You met a lot of people. What do they say? Do they even talk about the politics of the country, or do they just not even bother about it?
Luckily, majority of the people talk about, they have such a soft corner for Nepal. If they were given a choice, one country they want to visit before they die, Nepal is in 9 out of 10 people's list, believe it or not. They have that mysticism, that spirituality.
Anywhere you go.
Anywhere, especially Davos. They want to come there, but it's not for business purpose. It's not for seeing it as a country for expanding a business. No, maybe some companies in the South Asian region who are there, and after they meet us or meet me, they feel, hey, we've done this right in
XYZ country.
Why don't we just expand it to Nepal? Those conversations happen, but again, those conversations also I think they take it for granted that CG is there, CG is investing, so that means politics should be right.
I've heard about, so somebody has said this to me.
So it's a preconceived notion because of our confidence in the country that they are coming in.
So brand CG is definitely right there on the spot, and then they look at everything else.
they definitely look at the market opportunity. They definitely look at Nepal being a strategic market. But as an investor, your confidence level becomes much, much higher, and the decision making becomes much, much easier when you know a strong local company is also putting in their own buck in this business, right? A company with credible track record and reputation are putting their own money.
Before I jump into like 500 questions that I have, one thing that somebody had mentioned this, and I want to touch base on this, and that's how does it work? I just want to understand this. Same event that you were a part of, and one of my other friend was a part of. This other friend went ahead and met probably one of the mid-level or slightly higher up person in that organization. And then after 10 minutes, there's a picture of you sitting with the founder, CEO of the company, right? Founder of the company, most probably, right? Now, that's the difference that probably comes with experience, with the network, with the knowledge, with the credibility that you have as well, right? What does it take for you to go ahead and meet XYZ people from XYZ organizations that we just look up to? And you are there meeting them. How does it feel when you go ahead and meet some of your idols?
So, again, there are two aspects out of it. Eh? So, probably your friend definitely wouldn't have known about the aspect where I would have also met the CEO and the mid-management people.
You also went through that, right?
No, even when you are in a strategic partnership or in a partnership, we don't skip the chain of command, the process. We don't do it. But visibly, you don't see it.
Yeah.
Okay, it just so happens that if we believe in a particular sector or a particular opportunity and we believe that one company is the right partner, we follow the chain of command. We meet the middle management or whoever it is. It doesn't matter to us, the business development head or manager going all the way to CEOs. When we know that this company requires a much more serious approach from their side, that's when you'll probably see a photo with me with the founder. But again, I think the process is the same. The speed is different.
What do you ask when you meet some of your idols? Some of your mentors?
I am always meeting. I'm very fortunate and blessed that I've got a chance to meet such wonderful, successful people in my life. Some of them for business, so it's more business discussions. Majority of them, no business. Right? I can go on with the list of many, many people. And a lot of them over a period of time have even offered, you know what, let's do this business, that business. And you know what, I've drawn a line over there saying, I don't want to do business with you. For me, I have not done my MBA. I continue to do my EMBA. I've done Harvard, London Business School, MIT. I still consider myself a student of life. I want to learn from you. So 2 or 3 days they allocate to me and I'm spending time with them. I am showcasing them a particular perspective of a business that I'm looking, not a particular, micro level challenge, but I'm looking at consolidating or growing or exiting or IPOing my particular, what do you think? The sector is moving from here, economy is here. The views that they give me, the advices that they give me, that's what I value most.
So even if you know that I'll be making money working with this person and something doesn't feel right, you will not work with that person?
Oh, absolutely no. Absolutely no.
So it's not just money. It's not about money.
No, it's to me it's never been about money. To me it's always been about things.
For majority of people who are probably listening who want to make money. You're getting me what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. Making money is very, very important, but do not make money in a way where your conscience will be able to say, how did I make money? There are 20 other ways to make money the right way. There are 20 other ways to keep making money and eventually lead to a mindset of a wealth creation. There's not like today, for example, Sanjay, you are running a successful podcast. You've got investments in such good infrastructure, lighting. And I'm proud to see you as my younger brother that you're doing well. 500th episode. But at the end of the day, your time is coming into it. Your investments has come, right? Are you making money? For sure.
Of course, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this.
But
I'm not going to do something twisted to go ahead and make more money.
But is money the prime motivation for you to do this?
No, hell no.
Why? What is it?
It's the passion, it's the zeal, and I want to do it here. If Joe Rogan can do it in the US, buddy, we can do it here too.
There you go.
Now I'll come to some questions that we prepared. I know that's something. All right, the earlier thing that I was mentioning, Name me a few mistakes that comes up in your mind that you think you've made that is going to be a good learning lesson for the youth today.
Over a period of time, I think I've realized that being impatient can be a big mistake. I think that's something that comes over a period of time, wisdom, experience, reacting to things,
Instantly.
Yeah, I think sometimes can be a mistake. Decisions made in anger or comments you say in anger is always the worst decision. So that's one definitely a learning that I've had. The second one is that not get overexcited. Channelize that excitement into that energy within you. Right? For example, you might have your strengths in XYZ functions of a particular, in a business ecosystem, but have that sense of filling the gaps with people who can do your weaknesses better than you can. Putting the right person in the right place. I think these three things, and obviously the looking at the larger picture. You have to, no matter how bigger you become, humility must remain with you. And humility, when I mean, is just not being humble about it, but having that desire to constantly learn. The day you tell yourself, I know everything, you're finished.
I'll share this with everybody, that a lot of people probably don't know about you. I've known you for almost 2 decades now, You'll see Nirvana Chaudhary, I call in sitting with some of the top people in the planet, and then next day you're going to see him sitting in Patanko Kunsai Gully, having some chana chura and some food, and that can happen, and that has happened, and I've seen it with my own eyes. Am I correct or not in this?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you are in a particular position in your society, and you have certain obligations and responsibilities. But at the end of the day, I'm a human being too. Like, believe it or not, I'm in Mantra Thakali twice or thrice a week. Because that's my comfort food. I enjoy that. But at the same time, I've been to the best restaurants in the world. So I mean, you've got to not have a air about yourself. Okay, you got to enjoy the simplest things in life.
I'll also tell people something else about you, that you might be talking to some of the top entrepreneurs in the planet today, and then next day, outside CG, you might just be ending up talking to a young budding entrepreneur, and you'll give that person 10 minutes of your time, and you'll not even hesitate to do that. I know that about you too.
I have an open door policy, and everyone in my company knows that, and especially to the youth of our company who are part of our company. I always tell them that, listen, you've come into our group, you've come into the CG family with particular expectations. We have expectations from you, but even you have expectations from the group to help you build your career, to mold you into a better leader, to help you become a better person, to make you part of a larger game plan, larger goal that we have. So, I always tell them that any time, not only business, but personally also, if you have any problem, whatever I can share as an individual, I'll be more than happy to do it. And I do it more towards the youth of our company. And I try to do it with an open door policy where they can just walk into my office. And if I'm free for some time, I just try and spend as much time with them.
20,000.
And I get to learn a lot.
You get to learn, right? 20,000 people in CG on today's date, all across the country?
That's right.
20,000 jana manje. Into 4 in your own mathematics earlier when we were talking off air, right? That's a lot of families.
Almost 1 million households, yeah.
Outside Nepal, I haven't even touched base on that, right? How does it make you feel today to go ahead and run an organization of this stature that hasn't happened in this country before?
Frankly speaking, Sanjay, you feel proud to some extent, but I'm not content.
Pugdaina.
There's a lot more I can do. There's a lot more we can do here. There's a lot more employment I can create. I'm not asking for any subsidies or tax breaks or anything. I am just asking for an environment where I'm allowed to work. That's it. So where I want to be, where I am, where we are as a group, I don't think we are even remotely content of where we are.
Number one, hunuko pros ke cha? Cons ma पछि जाउँला.
Number one, hunuko pros is there is certain perception from the society, from the community. There's certain expectations, and if you're fulfilling that with all full honesty, and if you're fulfilling that with strong integrity, then you get recognized for it as well. That here's a company who doesn't take shortcuts. Here's a company who believe in their code of conduct really well. They're an ethical company and they're growing. People sooner or later realize that and feel proud about that. That's a major plus point of being one. But like, what's the toughest part of climbing Mount Everest?
Enlighten me.
Is staying on top. People climb Mount Everest, come down, climb on, but who stays on top the most? So as a company, there's a constant pressure, that you are the number one company here. How are we going to continuously reinvent ourselves, innovate ourselves, grow ourselves to becoming the number one company for generations to come?
Before I come to the cons, you try something new. You bring in a brand or you create your own brand, whatever it is. It doesn't succeed. You get that gut punch. It doesn't matter if it's a 1 crore ko brand or a 100 crore ko brand or a 1000 crore ko brand. Example, त्यो जुनसुकै सेक्टरमा होस् I know you're in almost all the sectors except a few. Except a few.
Except airlines.
From billionaire to millionaire, I'll never forget that. What happens when you fail? The number one company in the country fails creating a brand. I'm practically saying fails. I'm sure that has happened. Has it?
Yes, of course it has happened. How we look into it, eh?
Yeah.
You look into our track record for the last 30 years, for example. If we as a family have decided to enter a particular sector, sooner or later we have succeeded. In that process, there might be a lot of ups and downs, brands failing, this, that. But on a longer term game, we have succeeded. Because we have consistently and persistently worked hard into turning around stuff, into achieving our goals, and into reaching up to our dreams.
Okay. So major industries. Right?
So it's a very short term. Failure of a brand is very short term to us. But larger, we do everything possible. So let's say if you have a company that does 1 crore ko sales or a company that does 100 crore ko sales. But if the 1 crore ko company is not doing well, majority of our management time goes in that 1 crore ko company.
Doesn't matter the amount of money.
No.
Oh, none. Okay. So it really doesn't matter. तर आफ्नो brand भएपछि त्यो 1 crore को brand होस् या 100 crore को brand होस् या 1000 crore को brand होस्, brand चाहिँ brand.
We started brands and companies built on certain dreams, certain plans, some certain strategies, sometimes certain opportunities that we saw. Due to short-term external or internal issues, there are ups and downs. We realize that. We learn from it. But our end goal doesn't change.
So what kind of portfolio of a brand do you look into personally?
Sure. So between my brothers and me, we have 15 verticals. My youngest brother looks after the cement business that we've started off with.
So Varun sir looks into cement.
And he looks after YY globally. Not Nepal. Nepal I look after. The FMCG. YY, snacks, beverages, all of that. The middle one, Rahul, he looks after our hotel business globally. And he looks after our real estate business.
In Nepal?
In Nepal primarily. Majority is Nepal. Hotels is globally. Right? We have, I think, over 170 hotels. I get to know more from Google what he does than anything else. In the 15 verticals, the remaining 11 I look after. So FMCG here, electronics, financial services, power, EPC, education, our communications, motors, my favorite vertical, foundation. These are some things which I look after.
Which one is, when it comes to a monetary term, which one's the largest one and which one's the smallest one? You don't have to say how much.
Today?
Yeah.
Today, I would say financial services, FMCG, and our motor business are doing relatively well. I would say even our electronics, despite the challenges in the market, have done quite well. I would say these are the 3-4 businesses that financially have done relatively well. Going forward, it's a completely different. I would be taking completely 4 different sectors. If you ask me next year what, next 5 years what, I would take completely different names.
Okay, I'll ask you that and then I'll come to the cons. I just want everybody to understand that the financial services that you're talking about, त्यो 40 वर्ष भयो 4 वर्ष अगाडि खोले हैन नि 40 वर्ष अगाडि Nobel's just one that I'm going to touch base in, started in 84. That was a long time. You corrected me earlier, it was the first commercial bank, a private commercial bank of Nepal. That's 40 years in the making. It didn't happen today. When it comes to other businesses that you just mentioned, these were all the seed was rooted long ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was rooted long ago, but you see, take the example of Nabel Bank, right? It's predominantly being a brick and mortar commercial bank. Track record, credibility, the way it services its clients, customers, right sectors to grow. But what we also did 2 years ago is we became the first digital bank in South Asia. We reinvented the financial services over there. In our electronics, FMCG, we were growing in our own portfolio. We reinvented ourselves 10 years ago by starting off with our own retail network. We reinvented ourselves by having a large focus and investments into e-commerce platform from there. Like this, I can give you an example of different businesses within our group. You have to constantly reinvent yourself. Okay? Looking at the success stories around the region or internationally, what is relevant to your context.
So you shouldn't stay comfortable.
There's no way. You can stay comfortable, but you're not going to stay on top. Today's environment is competitive. There are a lot of entrepreneurs who have come back to Nepal, or even existing legacy businesses that are doing well. There are new entrepreneurs who are coming up with phenomenal ideas. Your competition and your ecosystem is very competitive. On top of that, you're dealing with a political environment which is 10 times more challenging. So in this context, you have to remain number one. It's not an easy task.
All right, future businesses that you were mentioning, name me a few that you want to get into.
That we are already into and I want to grow. Definitely our group wants to, except for continuing our organic, our legacy businesses. I definitely want to grow, put a lot of emphasis on our fintech business, which is the N-Bank, and grow the digital banking much more. We've already a hydropower company, which is running quite well. I want to be able to give a lot of emphasis on our energy portfolio and, Telecom.
That's going to be the next big step whenever it happens?
It would be a substantial investment for the group. That's why, like, when we talked about, investments from our family internationally, over 90% being in Nepal, I think if Telecom comes, then it'll probably exceed 95%. So it's going to be quite substantial investment going into the Telecom. It's a very capital-intensive business.
When I give an example of an entrepreneur, I give examples of you, right? Not saying that you're sitting in front of me and I've known you for 2 decades. I give an example because there's somebody here pushing the boundaries. When Binod sir gave an example of an entrepreneur at one point during an event, he gave an example of Jack Ma. There was somebody, Jack Ma, which I'm sure you're good friends with as well, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody who pushed the boundaries. I'm sure is still pushing the boundaries, right? On today's date in 2024, whose example do you give?
I think 2 of them. Number one is a large population of the youth, especially who are coming to Nepal or who are already in Nepal and have, I have been fortunate. Let's say in the last 1 year itself, I've met like maybe 25, 30 young entrepreneurs.
Nepal mein.
Yeah, how I met them is I was also instrumental in starting Nabil's School of Social Entrepreneurship, where we incubate startups and help them to take it to the next level. And then at the end of the program that they go through, 4 months, 6 months, we do this like a small ceremonial program to have them graduate out of this program. And then they put up a exhibition about the various companies or the products and services they're doing. I mean, I was so happy that day when someone's working on a particular alternate for Google Maps, when someone's looking at our local organic products and trying to bring value add and export it outside. Someone's working on building our own local motorcycles or EV cars. I mean, that was just one example in one hall. So one is that I'm really inspired by. Number two, I would definitely say the King of Bhutan.
Oh.
The King of Bhutan has very recently announced a mindfulness city called Gelufu. And it is in the Golden Triangle, just areas that are close to Myanmar, Bangladesh and India. And it is 6 times the size of Singapore. Bhutan obviously runs on 100% clean energy.
Do you have any business there?
We've been exporting Wi-Fi for a long time to Bhutan. His Majesty is someone who I consider as my older brother.
He's tried Wi-Fi?
He's pretty fond of it, actually.
Okay.
But he's someone I consider as my mentor, as someone in my generation I look up to. I'm, again, very fortunate that I get to spend time with him. And I learn so much from him. And the inspiration that I wanted to really share is his vision for the Gelufu city. He's trying to create an autonomous city within Bhutan, 6 times the size of Singapore, where he's attracting in some of the world's top multinationals like Google or you name it, and trying to set up their carbon neutral entities, leveraging hydropower of Bhutan and having accessibility to markets around the region like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Nepal, etc., which is, almost 1.82 billion people.
When was this?
This was, my wife and I were invited by His Majesty for my anniversary. My wife and I got married on May 13th. And May 13th is, in Hindi they say, "Main tera, tera main." I mean, on a lighter note. But we were invited by His Majesty to Bhutan. And His Majesty is so humble that while we spent time at the palace, this is a photo where he came to our hotel and he said, "Hey, come on, you guys must be busy in your candlelit dinner. Let me come and barge in and try and spend some time with you in your hotel." So this was a photo very recently, I think 2 months ago, May 13th.
Yeah, May 13th. Yeah, beautiful. No, and I know your beautiful wife, and she's a gem, and what she's doing at NSL, it's fantastic. And I'll come to that shortly. What's the first mover's advantage? Could you explain this? And how does it work when it comes to CG? And you look at something when you go abroad, you travel, you see something, and then, the story behind YY as well. When So went to Thailand at one point, saw it, brought it back to Nepal. You travel all around the world. Bringing something back to Nepal and making it our own. There's nothing wrong in that. Like, you don't have to go, the wheel has already been invented, right? Being the first mover to do it, the challenges of it.
So, firstly, my father saw the noodles in Nepal's...
in Nepal's sphere, right, first?
In Nepal's baggage claim area. And then he went to Thailand. Yeah, he saw, my God.
Oh, yeah, that's in the book. Oh, I skipped that. Oh, मैले किताबमा पढायो.
Right. So, first mover has his advantages and some disadvantages. The advantages is that you are creating that entire...
paving the way.
You're creating the entire space. You're defining some of the fundamental rules of how that sector or that market is going to develop as a first mover, right? There's higher risk. But if you're able to leverage your ecosystem and grow with that massive economies of scale, you have a major advantage because the barriers to entry become more difficult then. I mean, a lot of things that we do are first mover.
That's why I'm asking this.
Right. So, I mean, we do that. But there are also areas which we've seen that there's already present companies and are already present with their products and services. We see that particular sector hasn't been, the full capacity hasn't been, the potential hasn't been utilized. So that's when we go in and,
How cutthroat do you need to be to get to the number one position in a country like ours?
Cutthroat, I don't think is the right word.
Okay.
Even ruthless is not the right word.
Okay.
You need to be very honest. You need to work hard. There is no shortcut to that. So that can be one way of looking into it, being cutthroat or
ruthless or whatever it is.
Hard work with clearly defined goals, having the agility to manage problems as and when it comes with that speed, right? That's what it takes.
Okay, so being number one, the cons of being number one.
You're under continuous scrutiny and being monitored, which is okay.
Being monitored.
Yeah, I mean your consumers, the people in your country who have expectations out of you are continuously monitoring, right? What you're doing next, what you're doing now, and sort of are continuously judging you for it. But that when that judgment becomes negative or preconceived or based on rumors or that becomes very challenging, because you can try and explain to one person or one community or one set of people, but you can't go out and try and convince your part of the story to everyone when you have so many different portions in the society trying to completely portray or spread a completely opposite message. So that's a downfall sometimes. Or maybe something we need to learn to manage our communications and media well, to putting together a truthful and the right narrative forward.
Number one, it's a fantastic place to be at, and at the same time you're sitting in a chair full of full of thorns. Does it feel like that sometimes when everybody is attacking you, everybody wants a piece of it?
Not full of thorns for sure. Like even in
not full.
Even when you see even if you pick up a rose, rose is so beautiful, but there are some thorns, which is part of life. If there are no thorns, then what's the sense of adventure doesn't come into play. These are challenges and small bottlenecks we have to overcome. These are very fundamental characteristics of an emerging economy. This has happened in every single country, and this has always happened and targeted to the most successful entity in that country. So it's not something that's very new in Nepal. It's happened everywhere in the world. It's how you overcome that journey is where the real, true test comes into play.
Somebody has an idea today. कसैले सुनिरहेछ यो जहाँसुकै होस् है, it doesn't matter if that person's sitting in the United States of America or that person sitting somewhere in Qatar or somebody in Bhutan, anywhere in the world, or somebody in Ilam or somebody in Dhangadi, doesn't matter. Somebody has an idea and that person wants to work on that idea, but there's a million things that's against that person's favor. What do you want to say to that person? But that person's passionate about the idea, huh?
Having an idea is great. Being passionate about is great. I would say that's just 30% of what else that needs to be done. You need to be able to convert that idea into passion, into execution. How does the execution happen? By really identifying and working with like-minded and right-minded people along with you. Today you look at some of the most successful companies, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Alibaba, anything. Jack Ma comes in the front, but there are 12 other people with him. Bill Gates comes in the front, but there are 3 other people with him. Steve Jobs comes in the front, but there are 3 other people with him. Google, similar thing. So you have to collaborate and find the right partner you want to grow and achieve that dream. That's number 3. You need to be able to have a long-term thinking process, in a sense that idea must be differentiated. Mm-hmm. You must have a track record for it. So even when Mark Zuckerberg got his first round of funding for Facebook, he had already test piloted his Facebook project in all the Harvard dorms, right?
Within the colleges, yeah.
Then he met with the Winklevoss twins, who had access to the right financial entities, who saw the dream and the passion and then backed it up with finance. But the question was, can this be executed? That's why a lot of times you would have seen that there are a lot of CEOs who come into Facebook. Because probably the CEOs could do a better execution job than Mark Zuckerberg can.
Personal question, and I'll blatantly ask you this, and if you don't want to answer, it's completely fine. Do you have the freedom to do what you want at CG?
To a large extent today, yes, which I rightfully respect, because we still have a long way to go individually. Irrespective of how many companies I've been part of, which has been successful, which is growing, all of that. But there's so many different other aspects which need controlling. So right at the beginning of the show, I said, because of the age or because of excitement, we probably take decisions out of haste. That's the time you really need someone to, have a cross-check, a maker and a checker. We have got this concept in CG, okay? Maker and a checker. So I'm a maker, I'll have a checker.
And who is that for you?
There's an investment committee.
Okay.
And the investment committee reports into our group chairman. And our group chairman weighs the investment committee much more than what I would be able to convince him. So a lot of times an entrepreneurial gut feel might be shot down because the investment committee is not satisfied with it. There are a lot of businesses I have gotten bypassing the investment committee, which I've had to respect that. My God, I wish I'd listened to them and I'd done it this particular way. And then you maneuver it and bring it that way. So I think it's good that there is a certain degree of check and control. And that check and control also leads to providing the right experience, the wisdom, That's so helpful to our younger generation. Okay? Why not take that pool of knowledge and that experience, that wealth of knowledge, and try to say, hey, I'm doing it this way, what do you think? And then they give their experience and their perspective, like, my God, I didn't think of that perspective. And that's how your rate of failure becomes much less.
You need to be a good listener?
Of course. I think that's one of the components of humility. You need to be a good listener. You need to be able to have that courage to say, I'm learning from my people. You should have the courage to say that the people I work with are better in certain jobs than I can do better. You must be able to recognize it, acknowledge it, and communicate it.
How is Binod sir as a teacher?
He is not because he's my father. He's literally like 1 in a million, 1 in a billion. He is a hard taskmaster. That University of Hard Knocks. The things I learned from him, I've been so fortunate that because I've been in Nepal for almost 25 years, I've spent a lot of time with him. He is a no-nonsense man. He's got, certain temperament issues. But, for the last 60 years or 50 years, 40 years that he's been working with, he's developed those pros and cons because of a particular environment and that ruthlessness and that aggressiveness that he's come in building this organization to where it was. So he expects the same level of delivery from us. So his benchmarking towards this is something else. So when you're a perfectionist and you're not seeing things coming up to your speed, if you're taking the rail ko patterns, and when your rail starts moving at a top speed, there are a lot of loose nuts and bolts. Okay? So we either tighten ourselves to the speed of the train, or automatically that because of the speed of the train, the nuts and bolts go flying out. So he's a taskmaster, but he is not going to compromise on our goal and our vision and our dream to making this company bigger, to making this company a household name and a name that is synonymous to a company from Nepal taking it to the world. He's not going to let go of that.
What does it mean?
Very similar to Lee Kuan Yew style.
Lee Kuan Yew style. I'm coming to that. I'll come to that. Taking Nepal to the world. What does that mean to you today? Because I'll ask you this 20 years from now.
Sure. Taking Nepal to the world is, you see companies like Dabur, Unilever, Coca-Cola, everyone's present in Nepal. It's an Indian company, British company, American company. They've taken those British American brands globally and into Nepal as well. If a Dabur and a Nestle can come to Nepal and compete with our Nepalese products, why can't a Nepali company go outside to their countries and compete with their products there? That's taking Nepal to the world. When people from outside, when you have a Dabur or XYZ multinational company, when you have a foreign expat, good foreign expat coming and leading that company, why can't a Nepali go outside in a Nepali company and head that company? That's taking Nepal to the world. When you have your own sense of values and DNAs as a company of the way you are handling your corporate social responsibility, the focus you give on your foundation. Okay. For example, in Moldova, when we took over the company, it was just at the mouth of COVID.
Mold cell, right? Mold cell.
Mold cell.
Yeah.
It was right in the mouth of COVID. For 2 years, we didn't even look at the business plan. Our first priority was, are the people of our company okay? Are their families okay? What is required in Moldova? We said, give free access, data access to people who are elderly, who are not able to communicate to their extended family outside. Let's start providing ventilators and hospital equipments and free meals to the nurses, everything. The people in Moldova were like, my God, not only Molcel, Moldova, like, what kind of a company is this? The company performance is on one side, but their first priority is talking about the community and the people and their people within the communities, their well-being and safety. That's a Nepali company's DNA taking it to the world.
Something very personal to me, and obviously I come from a perspective of doing it. I don't have an education background. A lot of friends know this. What's your take on return of investment? हाम्रो जस्तो देशको कुरा गरे है मैले.
My take on return on investment.
When it comes to starting a business, should that be the only key to start a business in our country? That you will make a return at a X amount of time, very short period of time? Or should it be at a long frame?
It really depends. Like if you talk to a private equity, the private equity always has a 4-year, 5-year fund term. So for them, their number one focus is return on investment during the 5-year investment period.
4 to 5 years.
That's their mandate, right? So they're continuously looking on return on investment, but what they're doing is, to achieving the ROI, they make sure that the right set of people are leading the company, the right set of technology is going into the company, the processes are built, so that your ROI is achieved based on their particular plan. So for any business, ROI is a very important prerequisite. Short term, mid term, long term, it depends on the company's plans for growth.
So tomorrow's date, if you had to go out and invest in a business, let's say you had a pool of $1 million. त्यो भने कति भयो? 12 करोड भनौँ, 13 करोड भनौँ न त हैन? Example, I'm just hypothetically talking हैन?
13 करोड 20 लाख.
13 करोड 20 बढे पनि होला अहिले त हैन? What kind of businesses would you invest in? Small pool of money, eh?
Right. I would not. So predominantly, it's a very hypothetical answer I'm giving you.
Sure.
I would not invest in any businesses which is not in my control. So I'm not a firm believer of investing in the capital market or investing in newer startups or hearsay basis, something I believe in. I'm not that person. But if I feel in my line of business, I'm going to be investing in something that sooner or later is going to be a strategic fit in my business, and then I can leverage in parallel the investment that I made, which will give me a longer term amplified growth, I will make that investment. And that's what I'm going to do on. So for example, there is a company who is on logistics, last mile delivery, small business, right? But very important business for my e-commerce and for my FMCG and for my electronics distribution. Do I have the management bandwidth to do it? Probably not. Does the scale and the investment justify? Probably not. If I had that $1 million, I would put it over there. and help them to provide the business from us so that they scale that $1 million to 10 million. And at that time, I would start giving some serious attention to that company of taking from 10 to 100.
We've all seen Shark Tank. You've seen it?
I have never seen it.
You've never seen
Never
Shark
seen
Tank? Okay. So, so let me rephrase this then. A lot of friends have seen Shark Tank, most probably. If you were a shark and if you had God knows how much, once a year, वर्षको एकचोटि एक दिन, if you just stayed with entrepreneurs coming in and going, which were pre-vetted, right? Would you be interested in something like that? Young or non-young, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Even in business, a 40-year-old just starting his or her business for the first time.
Sanjay, I think 15 years ago, Donald Trump started this show called The Apprentice.
Yes.
For about 10 years, 10 years ago, my father was so excited that he wants to do something like this. My father really believes in the youth of our country, I think he even spoke to Bhushan Dai and said that let's try and come up with something like The Apprentice. We'll talk to the younger population, look at the ideas, invest in that. For whatever reason, it didn't happen. But again, going forward, we even started something known as Nepal Social Business, where we've invested in about 15, 20 businesses, but more on the non-for-profit, but for creating a social impact. We have invested in it. We've invested in not startups, but it's called Tier 1 capital ones. Okay? People who've done 1 year of revenue, etc. We have invested in those companies as well.
Within from Nabil too, I do know that.
But Nabil Investment Bank has it. And that's something which I was very instrumental in starting as well. So in our ecosystem, we've done this. Like I would even say the Nabil School of Social Entrepreneurship is one portion of it. Yeah. But if you ask me tomorrow, would I want to... I know what the Shark Tank format is and how it's done. I would love to... I would love to be part of something, especially in Nepal, But the day I know that I have accumulated enough wealth where I will be able to allocate it, which will do justice to that company's growth. So, for example, I don't want to come here and someone asks for $1 million, but his requirement is 5 million going forward. I don't want to be in a position where I'm able to do 1 million and then the money is just going into it, but I know visibility will come in. That kind of a scenario gets very, very tricky. Okay?
What frustrates you the most today?
Things that are beyond my control.
Political?
No. Political to some extent, but more importantly, the mindset of our youth. Okay? That is not in my control. And I think it's being tarnished. It's being given a wrong feed. It's been given a lot of negativity around them. It's been, they're always given no hope with less hope with wrong narratives and optics. That frustrates me a lot because tomorrow, if whatever we're working for in our country is the youth who are going to build the country, and if they themselves are getting so demotivated today, that is my biggest frustration. Okay? My most frustration for the telecom company not coming was not because I didn't make certain ROI or money. It was because Am Janta were paying the highest telecom fees anywhere in South Asia. Highest data cost anywhere in South Asia. Our data penetration was lowest in South Asia, but we were paying the highest. The frustration to me was, if I had come on, that wouldn't be the scenario.
मलाई चाहिँ यहाँ चाहिँ समेत होटलमा हामी बसेको र केही अरू विदेशी साथीहरू पनि हुनुहुन्थ्यो होइन र म त्यहाँ लन्च खाँदै थिएँ र bumped into you and you introduced me to a few friends of yours. I still remember you telling me, Sanjay, the day this happens, no money for data. Nothing. Everybody's going to have data.
No, my father has publicly announced it. This was about 5 years ago when our data cost and everything was so high. My father announced voice free, SMS free, data, whatever the competition is providing, half of that in long term.
5G? Now? That time it was different.
Has to be a 5G ready network. Even that time when 3G was on, we were talking about a 4G ready network. I don't know if you remember. You have to be future ready today.
this thing that I remember you saying that success
get everything out of your chest.
Success in life and business is balance of hard work, luck, and karma, right? A time is going to come when you'll get that, because it's just karma. It will come. It's just a matter of time, right? I remember that day we were talking about it, and even this is the same. Lee Kuan Yew, coming back to the same conversation, one of the first things that he did was, which is very close to me, corruption is something it's like a
virus.
it's a bloody virus. It's a cancer that stays, right? यति पैसा दिने politiciansलाई salary, हैन कि उसले कल्पना पनि नगरोस् कि उसले चाहिँ गएर चाहिँ घुस खानुपर्छ भनेर, हैन? We'll pay the politicians a fair wage that the politicians will not need to look left or right, under the table, wherever, for doing their job. That's something that he had said, right? What's the thought process of, sir, he's a politician. What's the thought process, and where does he see the future lying? And where does he see himself in that? Along with that, asking you the same thing, where do you see yourself in Nepali politics in the future?
Wow, so that's 4 things you've asked
Go
me,
for
right?
it. I know you got it.
So, Lee Kuan Yew saying that was in a context of a much smaller country.
At that time, but smaller population. But a population he had focused on ensuring they got the right exposure and the right education system. The education system in Singapore is one of the best in the world. If you go to a school in Singapore, it's like going to a military school, you know that? It is so competitive. It's not like they might have the right infrastructure, but it is very, very competitive. So fundamentally, over the last 5 decades, they've been investing in the next generation's education, skills, discipline. Everyone in Singapore has to go through 2.5 years of national service to discipline their mind. So, you give any politician anywhere in the world 10 times or whatever they're getting in their salary. I think the problems are far bigger in other different areas. Okay? The problem lies in the instability of the politics, with the mindset that, oh my God, I don't know how long am I going to be here for. Maybe 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year, max tops, given the track record. So I must extract out as much possible, because I've made an investment coming into this particular role for that particular time. I'm not saying for everyone. Some of them. Majority of them.
Maybe, but some of them.
Okay.
Maybe. Okay. So
Okay,
the entire mindset comes in from that particular aspect. So the comparison to Singapore is so wrong. If you want to start talking about a Singapore kind of system, we need to start working on the fundamentals. We need a leader like Lee Kuan Yew today. Only then, 20, 30 years from now, we can start comparing ourselves to countries like Singapore. Forget Singapore is too far. I just give you a small example of Bhutan, the king's vision. I'm going to give you a small example of Sri Lanka. 2 years ago, the country was bankrupt. The interest rate had touched 36%. Correct?
We all saw what happened.
No imports, nothing. No forex reserve. Minus balance of payments is in deficit. Right leadership, right policies, right thought process comes in. Today, interest rates are back to 10%. The government has over $6.5–7 billion of forex reserve. Tourism has already climbed over 2 million in 6 months. Economy is back up rocking. How? 6 months. The right leadership, someone who understands economics, someone who is well respected by the international community, someone who is able to deliver the right message to the youth. 6 months it took them to turn the situation around.
So what does Binod sir say at this?
Before getting into politics, he told me and my brothers that if you are, all of us are in a boat, you might have one of the most beautiful rooms in the boat, but if the boat is sinking, there's no point of having that room. So you guys expand on the room, let me take care of the boat. And that's how he decided to enter politics, because what he was able to do and contribute as an individual from one company, and how was he able to build that, if he was sitting in a position of power and where he would be able to where he will be able to execute and implement a larger narrative from a state of politics, the amplifying impact would be 100 times more. Okay? For example, we've created the country's first industrial park, captive industrial park. 16 of our plants are there. We produce our own power. We have a effluent treatment plant. We provide jobs to over 2,000 people there. It's state-of-the-art industrial park. It took him 25, 30 years to build it. But now if he's sitting in a position of power, knowing that experience, he'll be able to build 20 of them at one signature. He's built the most successful banks in the country. Most successful companies in different sectors. He's been in tourism for the last 30 years. He knows exactly what it takes, whether you talk about a power, he's got a track record, hospitality, he's got a track record, retail, he's got a track record, financial services, he's got a track record on every single economic sector you can think of. He's well respected by the international community. Some of the world's leading companies are partners and respect him and want to come into Nepal because he and CG are co-investing with them. He's got a proven credibility, reputation, and knowledge and expertise in that field. So whenever you join politics, why are you joining it for? To obviously become the Prime Minister. Leaving politics out of it, if there is someone who's going to turn around this country and position it, and then hopefully 5 years from now we can start talking again about Lee Kuan Yew Singapore example. I'll have a completely different narrative. If today is in power, we'll be talking about comparing ourselves with Singapore and Switzerland. You need the right leadership. He is the one. We need the right leadership.
So he's going to be able to deliver? That's what you're saying?
His delivery track record credibility has already been established, right? He is the right person for the right job, with the right management skills, with the right resource planning skills, with the right global narrative, with the right knowledge on the economic potential and activities and indicators and what needs to be fixed. He's a manager who knows exactly how to manage people, put what person at what place, what Narendra Modi has done quite well. I think when you're creating the perfect dish, you need the right ingredients, and I think he's a perfect chef.
Will the party be able to see that?
I don't know. I hope they do. I'm not saying all this because he's my father. I'm seeing it because I'm saying it because I've seen over the last 25s a leader emerge in such a difficult environment and still establish Nepal's first multinational and get our name in not only Forbes but some of the most respected communication journalism mediums that exist in the world. And outside, no matter where he goes, he doesn't introduce himself as Binod Chaudhary, but a small man from a small country with big dreams.
The last question that you still haven't answered, are you interested in it? Will we see a politician Nirvana Chaudhary in the future?
I am not
Never say never.
Sure. I'm not sure. I have a lot of work to be done in our group. I have a lot of work that we need to do through our foundation, much, much more. I talked about it in our last show also, Sanjay, by leveraging our group's infrastructure and activities, what we could do. I gave you the example of earthquake time. And we continue to do much, much more. Just during the earthquake time, and that's been a major game changer for me as an individual. And that's why I'm so passionate about our philanthropic work. Just 3 hours after the earthquake in Nepal, we were able to open up all our schools as relief camps. Because we have affiliated healthcare hospitals, we were able to get medical relief material. Because we had a food company, we were able to provide YY snacks, beverages, water to as much areas that were affected openly. Because we had 2,000 sales force on the ground, institutions like UN and all relying on our data point, which home or which families have been affected. 15 days after the earthquake, we built the first transitional home. Within 1 year of the earthquake, we gave away 5,500 homes, 55 schools, 22 digital classrooms, 20 clean water drinking systems. We rebuilt an entire village with 100 plus permanent homes and community center. established a art and craft preservation cultural center, upgraded hospitals, pediatric hospitals, and trained 7,000 people in 1 year. That's the day I realized that if I'm able to generate and grow the wealth of my company, the impact me as an individual can create to the impact it'll have in our countries, different aspects of health, education. So I'm driven by that purpose right now. But maybe in the future, I feel I'm in the right path. I've set up the right team, right systems. And if I'm in the right path where, like I gave an example of my father, I'm able to also take that legacy forward and contribute in our own humble way towards the country's prosperity. And if I'm in that position to do it, if I've been entrusted upon that this guy can do it, I will not hesitate to jump in.
Did Binod sir take you to functions, inaugurations and functions when you were young?
Never. He always never ever took us to inauguration function because that was a very public event. But what he always did was from the age of 12, asked us to come and sit in the boardroom, asked us to come to the factory visit with him, observe, learn. See.
I've seen that you take your kids, होइन आर्या र आरानलाई कति फङ्सन्सहरुमा होइन.
Actually,
it's adorable.
I specifically take my son. My son he's 5 years old, but he's very, very passionate about motors. Okay? It's very amazing. And as a parent, you have to always work on your children's strengths. You have to always give them that exposure. So whenever we are launching a lot of EVs, and off late we've been launching a lot of them, more than me, I've seen him. He gets more excited about the launch. And it's good. You're a business family at the end of the day. You want your next generation to get into business. So why not start training them and giving them this exposure at a young age?
How does it feel to be father? Tell me, wow. Big bro.
No amount of words will be able to describe what it feels. It's just amazing. It's an amazing phase in your life that you go into. You start realizing that, my God, this is why, my parents said the things or did the things for us, which we didn't understand then. You start understanding that now. Nothing else matters.
Sashwadam, isn't it?
Yes, that's Sashwadam.
Asha Dadi and all the amazing things that she's doing.
Yes, she's in her own way, I think, has this strong desire to do youth development through sports, and that's how she conceptualized Nepal Super League. Her objective was that why shouldn't the sports people also be well compensated in a field of sports, corporatize it so that there's money and investment coming into this game. And I think in her own way, during the most difficult time, she's launched NSL.
Is it COVID time?
Yeah, but I think she's in it for a long term. So I think she's on the right track as well.
Constantly over the past 4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours, whatever this is, right? There's one thing that you've constantly said, which I believe I've repeated now when I think about it. I've repeated this over time of sitting with you, to a lot of friends, होइन, that जे गरे पनि लामो गर, यो छोटो चाहिँ नगर, जे गरे पनि लामो गरेर लामो सोच, होइन. I've constantly said this, and I'm dying here, big bro. Like, this is it for me. Like, I'm going to be, whatever I do, I'm going to end up doing it here, right? It's the same with you. And to change the system, you have to be part of the system. I'm a big believer in that. And that's my own opinion on this. And you have your own thought process on this, right? What do you want to say to a 16-year-old, that one kid, I figured out that I really didn't want to say this, but generally I always talk about 18 and above, but today I'll talk about that 16-year-old or that 17, that 18, that 19, that 20-year-old who is listening, who looks up to you. The kids look up to you. I know that. Wherever they are, that one person who is listening, putting that AirPod, त्यो सानो त्यो एउटा त्यो कुनै न कुनै त्यो माइक्रोफोन कानमा राखेर के अरे हेडफोन कानमा राखेर चाहिँ अहिले सुनिरह होला, रातिको 3 बजिरह होला, हैन, त्यो व्यक्तिलाई के भन्नु मन छ?
Don't ever lose hope. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you cannot do something. This environment is wrong. People are wrong. things are messed up. No. Don't let anyone else kill your dreams. As a 16-year-old, don't lock in your dreams right now. Just explore. The way the world is evolving is so fast. Work on something today that will be relevant for a 16-year-old 5 years down the line. Start working on it today. Don't limit yourself to that, I just have to go and do something in Nepal. Look at a larger picture. Come up with an idea that has a much bigger impact. Then you'll be known as a 16-year-old who had that dream from Nepal who has now taken it to the world.
Do you think the kid, as a जसले सुनिरहेछ हैन, त्यो व्यक्ति यदि लागि पर्यो भने, सपना देख्यो भने, can be a billionaire as well?
Of course. Did you think of the guy who invented WhatsApp and was cleaning the toilet in a particular area? He thought at the age of 40 he'll be a billionaire. Do you think Jack Ma, a teacher who was teaching English, if he hadn't had a dream, would be a billionaire? I can give you, we can spend another 3 hours just on this topic. Why didn't they do it? Because they didn't lose hope. They saw a dream, they had a dream, they did their research, they had a plan, they worked on it, and they executed it.
And that's all it takes. Man, thank you so much. This is 500. I want to say this. You came at 15. Nobody, I'll end with this, हैन? कसैले पनि मलाई पत्याएको थिएन के? कसैले पनि. I'm not going to lie to you, हैन? I had my first guest because I had a relationship with her. She's my sister, हैन? And I invited doctors, I invited a few friends, हैन? And especially, I still remember COVID. It was lockdown. I still remember. I called you and I said, Nirvana, I've started this podcast and I really want you to be my guest. And I thought you'd say no. I genuinely thought you'd say no. COVID छ, हेर्न म बाहिर निस्केको छैन, अथवा probably not the right time, हैन, यो मिलेको छैन, त्यो मिलेको छैन. There were thousands of reasons for you to say no to me. And you instantly said, done, bro. What time you want me to come?
No, again, 500 shows, not a small one. I myself have, in my own small way, do this podcast. My patience level was 10 to 12 minutes. I used to do this. And I wanted to do 50. And I've done that 50 long time ago, do it. But having allocated time and bringing out the best from people, getting out the best learnings for your listeners from that people is not an easy task. And you've done that. 500th episode, all I can say is I'm so proud of you. You've reached here. But again, this is just the beginning for bigger things to come. Don't restrict yourself to here. You've established credibility. You've established track record. You've understood the entire sector of media, entertainment, communications. Now it's time for you to take Vyasa to next level heights, and I'm sure you'll do it the way you are, expanding and the way you are thinking, because you have the fundamental component, which is humility. That's why you'll do it. So all my best to you.
It means so much to me. From a kid, I'm a kid that worked in Nepal television, and I met you. You were wearing a white kurta at that time, and I still remember meeting you. Thanks to Dinesh DC that day, and you walked in and meeting you from then to giving you a call when it was the toughest time for the country and toughest time for me as an entrepreneur starting something, and you didn't even hesitate to say, "No problem, bro. I'll be there. Just give me your time." That means you have no idea how much that means to me and how much that meant to me. And today, coming on this 500 episode, it means so much to me. Thank you so much, Nirvana, for the insights that you've given me, knowingly and unknowingly, and not just to me, to so many kids out there.
Thank you so much.
Man,
I really, really appreciate it.
Love you, big bro. Love you, big bro.
Thank
and
you.
Best wishes for everything. Love you. Vyas Media Network.